Hi everyone. Thanks for being here with me today. For those of you who don't know me, who are new to this space, I am Dr. Tony. This is my beautiful space for those who are driven and caring, but completely emotionally exhausted and burnt out and are ready for some balance in their lives. So if that is you, I'm so glad you're here. I want to connect with you. I want to support you. I'd love to inspire you. And I hope that you can find that inspiration here in this space. So please contribute to this space because then you'll get more out of it. And the more we contribute, the more we all grow and are able to connect with one another. So I'm glad you're here today because I want to have a really honest conversation with you. And I think it's an important conversation to have. So if you're coming on, thank you so much for being here. And if you catch the replay, please do hashtag replay. Let me know that you were here. I have notes with me today because I want to make sure I don't miss anything because I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I'm super passionate about working with you all. And I want to make sure that I'm showing up fully for all of you so that no kind of rock goes unturned as far as how I can be there to support you if you are at a place where you're open and willing and wanting to receive support. So one of the things that happens is people aren't sure, like, who is it that you help? Who is it that you work with? And so I'll take the onus for that because I want to make sure that that's super clear. And I want to start there so that you are super clear if you're on the fence, or maybe again, if you're new or wherever you're at. You're super clear on who I can help and who I can't help and what's going on with the clients that I do help. And maybe you can see a connection there. So the clients that I do help have a lot of things in common. And these are the folks that I tend to attract and I just absolutely adore working with. So these highly ambitious, deeply caring adults who've been reaching out to me, this is what they're experiencing. So let me know if this connects with you. I'd love to hear. Disconnection. So this disconnection runs super deep. All right, because my clients want to be able to have deep connections with all the people that they care about, meaningful connections. They really deeply desire meaningful interactions that leave them feeling heard and seen and understood and genuinely cared about. But the deeper into burnout that they get, the further away they start to feel from the people that they want to have a connection with, or the people that they would like to have a connection with in the future, like being able to engage in a meaningful, intimate relationship. And they get in patterns of not being able to do that over and over and over again, and they can't figure out what's wrong. And they try, but the harder they try, the harder it gets. And so they often feel more disconnected and then misunderstood. And the more they feel misunderstood and disconnected, that cycle continues to grow. So they continue to feel more disconnected and more misunderstood. And then it's just painful and it's lonely. So they feel isolated. And another thing that my clients tend to experience is this over everything, right? So overwhelmed, overthinking, overfunctioning, overwhelmed with overthinking and overfunctioning. Does that sound familiar? So they're constantly stuck in their head and they're questioning if they're good enough, if they're worthy enough of this, or if they're being judged about that, or if they're going to be rejected, or if they're even wanted. Or the what ifs just seem endless. Even though they work hard, they care deeply, they just can't seem to escape the voices of self-doubt and self-critique, and it's draining. It's just exhausting. And so they become angry and resentful. And this is another common theme I say, is this anger and resentfulness, because they're not likely to ask for help or support, even if they actually need it. So they do more, they give more, they try to be more for others. And the more they do that, the more resentful they grow, the more angry they feel, the more disconnected they experience in their interactions, because now they're feeling even more like they're not being seen, they're not being heard, they're not being understood, they're not being appreciated or supported or acknowledged. And what happens then is it filters into this sense of having to battle with shame and guilt, because now, like, that isn't my identity, that isn't how I identify. Like, I'm not an angry, resentful person, and yet I'm feeling this way and I'm acting a way that, like, I'm not okay with. So now I feel ashamed. Can you connect with that? And so this battle of shame and guilt is just fueled. And the shame and guilt, as it builds up, they just never really feel like they can ultimately achieve these high standards of success that they've set out for themselves, or they feel like they need to or should be achieving, regardless of how many accomplishments they've actually had, they've actually made. And so leaning into the feelings of all of this, shame, anger, resentment, sadness, like all of these feelings that come up, is too much. And so what they do is they will try to suppress them or ignore them or avoid them in any kind of way, because experiencing the feelings just feels so scary and even more overwhelming. So what if the feelings take over? What if I regret something because I just can't control my feelings? And so they just push them down or distract themselves to remain busy or get more busy so they don't have to deal with that. And so when you're in the midst of this, when my clients are in the midst of this, they're struggling to communicate. They can't clearly or confidently or effectively communicate in the midst of all of this overwhelm, even though they want to be able to communicate clearly and confidently and effectively. It's a struggle. They're so frustrated and so fed up with being stuck in their heads and constantly walking on eggshells and trying to do the right things or all the things or being considerate of everyone and everything. And so it just doesn't leave the space to actually experience feelings. It doesn't leave the space to openly communicate in a way that feels good. And then there's this lack of trust and vulnerability, which is a theme that is just rampant in the people that I support and work with. And it's like, there's this fear that somehow someone is going to disappoint them, or they're going to disappoint someone, or they're going to disappoint in some way, or they're not going to be properly understood or well received if they just open up and be them and get vulnerable and trust. So they don't. It's just too scary. They keep like this emotional distance because it feels safer. They find a comfort zone that works for them, even if it's not how they want to live their life. And it just leads them to feel more disconnected, and it amps up the anxiety even more. And then there's this battle against time, which I'm sure plenty of you can relate to, right? It's like, time just never seems to be on my side. There's just not enough time in the day. I have too many things to do, right? But this constant battle of time is like, oh, this is either going too slow, it's going too fast. And it's like, there's never any sense of peace. There's never any sense of peace, because time and you are always battling. Time, my clients, they're always battling. And so it's just constantly going and going and going on that hamster wheel, and then they feel stuck because they can't catch up, right? So it leaves them feeling lost and drained, because somewhere along this burnout journey, they lost who they are. They look in the mirror and they're like, I just don't really know who I've turned into, or like where I went, or what's going on. And I'm honestly like kind of too tired to even have to deal with that. My clients stay here in this state of ongoing overwhelm and exhaustion because they hold and maintain beliefs that keep them there instead of moving them forward. And when they get to me, these are often all of the things that come up. And they might show up in different ways, of course, because everyone's a little bit different. Their story, their circumstances are all a little bit different. But these themes, they pop up, boom, 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 boom. And the beliefs that keep them there, these are some of the ones. I've written them down. And you let me know. Do you have other beliefs that have come up? Because these aren't even close to all of them, but here's some of them. No one understands. I just have to do it on my own. I can't rely on someone else. I can't depend on someone else. I've had to do everything on my own anyway, so I'm just going to have to do this on my own. I have to get out of stuckness, out of stress, out of overwhelm, and just got to deal with it or do it on my own. Where no one else is really going to be able to help me anyway, like they don't actually care, or no one really truly knows me anyway, so how could they help me? Or I don't want to spend money on this. I don't want to have to spend money on getting to know myself and enjoying my life and getting deeper connected with me. I don't want to spend money on that. What are people going to think? I've already tried to do everything. What is the point? How is this going to be any different? Another belief. I'm scared to say how I'm really feeling. And so how is someone going to help me if I don't say how I'm feeling? This is way too much for me. Like, I don't want people in my personal business. Another belief. I'm just going to look like a failure. If someone actually knew what was going on in my head and how I was actually feeling, who the heck knows what they're going to think about me? They're probably going to think I am the biggest failure. I don't have time. Huge belief, right? I don't have time for that. I don't have time to set aside to deal with that, to try to figure out how to get balance in my life. Like, I'm too busy for balance, but I want balance, but I'm too busy for balance. I'll do it later. I'll just do it later. Nope, I can't deal with it now. Time for it now. I can't manage it now. It's too overwhelming for me now. I'll deal with it later. Put it off, put it off, put it off. Another belief. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too overwhelmed to even try. Another belief. It is way too embarrassing to admit that I need help. Somehow it means something bad about me as a person, that I'm weak. Another belief. It's easier if I just ignore it. It'll eventually go away. It'll eventually get better on its own. Another one. Well, it could always be so much worse. So I should just deal with it, suck it up, because it could be so much worse than it is. These are just some of the common beliefs that I hear when people come in and begin connecting with me and talking to me about their stories that we have to address, because these beliefs are stuck beliefs. They are limiting beliefs. They keep my clients where they're at if they are not addressed. And if this connects with you, it's keeping you where you're at in this constant state of overwhelm, up, down, all around. And it's not allowing you to move forward, because these beliefs, they're running the show. You with me? So here's what we do. When we begin working together, we address all of these pieces, because I know all of this, because I know the themes, I know the beliefs, and I connect with everyone individually as well to get their individualized themes and how it shows up for them, their individualized beliefs, and how it's actually kind of being spoken out to them in their minds, right? And what we get to do is we can actually go in and we can address each of them so that instead of disconnected, they feel meaningfully connected. Even before we're finished working together, instead of the overwhelm and overthinking and overfunctioning, they actually gain clarity about what the heck's going on and how to respond in a way that makes sense for them in that situation, that aligns with them, that they're not going to regret. And how to actually navigate that anger and resentment and figure out where it's coming from so they can move away from it, so they can engage with people in a way that allows them to show up as them, joyfully, satisfied with the interactions and not angry and resentful about them. And that shame and that guilt, we go in there. Yes, we feel the feels. And I teach them how to feel the feels in a way that is not, oh my gosh, my feelings are just so overwhelming, they're taking over my life. No. In a way that validates your feelings and also allows you to move forward in accordance with your goals for what balance and success looks like for you and your life. So you don't have to stay stuck and sitting in that shame and guilt anymore. So that fear of feeling can dissipate because it's being addressed, effectively addressed, not just shoved under a rug. And that with all of those pieces, being able to communicate clearly and confidently and effectively comes with ease, because the clarity just makes things make so much more sense. And that connection with themselves, it just allows them to use an inner compass rather than constantly knocking things and using everything outside of them as a sounding board with how they should be or what they should do or how they should show up or what other people think of them, and having to use that as a means of figuring out what to do and how to be in this world, because that's overwhelming for anyone. And this whole lack of trust and vulnerability, we dig there too. Because guess what? Meaningful interactions, especially in intimate relationships or as a parent, they don't come without this willingness to trust and get vulnerable. You can't have a truly intimate relationship that's deeply meaningful and fulfilling if you're not willing to have some trust and vulnerability, both ways. And that battle against time, it is just not even a thing. It is just not even a thing for them anymore because we've oriented their life in such a way that they are intentionally choosing how to spend it. And so they're no longer stuck. They're no longer lost or drained. They know who they are. They choose to show up that way. And they now have this motivation and energy that they forgot even existed. So if this is you, let me know. If this is you, do you want to stay in that stuck place, in all of those themes that I listed? Or would you like to actually dig in, get courageous, and shift your life to a different experience? It's my mission to annually free 100 heart-centered, driven leaders from the confines of self-doubt, self-criticism, and overwhelm so they can go out into the world and make the impact that they're capable of making when authentically aligned and attuned to their passion and their purpose. These 100 leaders can live and lead and love with a magnitude of impact that is just, I can't even imagine it, because their sphere of influences per each person is at least a couple hundred. Their intimate sphere, their work sphere. And so as I show up for you, to help you show up for you even more, then you can go out and show up for others even more and share your gifts even more. And that ripple effect is what drives me to do what I do. That is what fuels me. That is why I'm here talking to you today. That is why I have my notes that I wanted to share with you today, because it's so powerful. What do you think? Do you agree? Is that ripple effect not powerful? Do you not have an influence or impact on those around you? And is it the influence and impact that you want to have? Does it feel deeply meaningful? Do you want it to? If you relate to my clients and you know that you were called to do more, but you're stuck in this chronic overwhelm and constant stress and just always in your head and can't be present in the moment and in your life and in your relationships, let me ask you, is it possible that this live reached you and you opened it and you chose to watch it until the very end for a reason? Is that possible? I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for being with me today. I am also super excited because I shared in a recent live that I have made a really big personal decision to leave my full-time job, which is school social work. I also have my private practice, which I'm going to continue to maintain, but I'm going to scale my coaching business because I want to serve more folks. So what does that mean for you? It means I have a little bit more time in my schedule to show up and be there for you. So if you are ready, if you are on the fence, wherever you are at on that spectrum, and you know, like, okay, Tony's in my head. Over the past 2 weeks, I've had at least 5 people connect with me and be like, it's like you're in my head. Like, you can read my mind. How do you know what I'm going through? Listen, why not reach out? Why not explore the possibility? Because perhaps I'm showing up to you and this message is reaching you because you need to hear it. Are you willing to maybe ponder that and see if that fits for you? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being with me today, y'all. Take care.